Before we begin, I feel it's important to give you some background on the play itself. William Shakespeare was baptized on the 26th of April, 1564. We don't have an exact date for his birth, so we go with the baptism record that's in the church. He died on the 23rd of April, 1616. Shakespeare lived during the Elizabethan age, an age so called because of the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. The age was 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth herself was very well-aged. She lived a long time, 70 years exactly, 1533 to 1603. And her era is at the end of a long series of wars in England called the War of the Roses, or the Wars of the Roses. During this time, 1455 to 1485, England was quite turbulent. It saw a lot of internecine fighting between the two houses, the royal houses that were fighting for the crown. Out of that emerged a unity of the two houses marrying together to produce a single heir. And that single heir was Henry VIII. Henry VIII then saw turbulence during his time as well. He broke from Rome and established the Church of England. And when he died, he left something of a power vacuum himself, and it threw the land into chaos once more. The fear, of course, was that they'd fall into, again, a civil war. And so Elizabeth herself had to keep a lid on things, and oftentimes there was a lot of intrigue in the court, a lot of betrayal, a lot of terror, a lot of infighting. Shakespeare was party to all of this. He seems to have embedded the struggles of the court in his plays. The play that Shakespeare writes has to appeal to two different classes, too. It appeals to both a noble, very well-educated class and also to a base, an uneducated class. So you'll find in the play both imagery that is highbrow and allusions to other works, and then in the play is also imagery that is lowbrow, slapstick, funny, carnal, sometimes obscene. The imagery throughout the play contributes to the overarching themes of the work. Let me talk for just a minute about imagery, too. When we talk about imagery, symbolism is the word we use, what we're talking about is we're talking about the use of an idea or an image to represent something else. So in the play that we read, we'll see images that repeat over and over again, and those images then are used in order to convey an idea or develop a theme by Shakespeare. And when we talk about imagery or symbolism, there are two types of symbolism that normally show up in all artwork. The first is called conventional symbolism. Conventional symbolism is a type of symbolism that we agree on as a society. It is arbitrary, so that the symbol is not directly related to the thing being represented. Natural symbolism, on the other hand, is something where the image by its very nature actually embodies what it seeks to convey. It's not arbitrary, and from culture to culture, natural symbolism can be understood. An example of conventional symbolism might be, for instance, for us, the McDonald's arches, where the colors of red and yellow and the arches themselves don't have much to do with actual burgers and fries. But yet we agree as a society that's going to represent that. When you see it on the roadside and we pull off. Another conventional symbol might be letters. Letters themselves don't naturally have a relationship to the sounds that they convey. On the other hand, natural symbolism would be something like water. Water is a perfect natural symbolism. We look at its natural images, the nature of the thing. It's wet, it's deep, it's dark, it's mysterious. With it, we can stay alive. Without it, we die. Too much of it, and yet we die. We're inundated. There are things down there in the dark bodies of water that are mysterious and sometimes emerge upwards. So water becomes a natural symbol if we want to represent something mysterious, otherworldly, like, say, the divine realm. Water seems to be perfect for representing something, the divine realm, which is mysterious and unknown to us, and too much of it and we seem overwhelmed, and too little of it and we die. That's why, for instance, when we have baptism uses water and not peanut butter or crankcase oil. The natural imagery or natural symbolism is perfectly suited for conveying the idea. Now in this play we'll see a lot of conventional symbols, which we'll have to parse for the age of Shakespeare, but we'll also see a lot of natural symbols. And we'll go over those further on in the text. The last thing I want to mention is iambic pentameter. There's a great deal that's said about iambic pentameter, and people sometimes hear the phrase and get all frightened. Don't be frightened. I'll tell you now, don't panic. Iambic pentameter is very simple. When we are writing, we either write in prose or in poetry. Prose is natural speaking. It's the way we speak in conversation styles. What I'm doing now. Prose follows a natural form and it's not terribly structured. Poetry, on the other hand, is a very highly structured form of writing. It uses the rhythms and natural cadences of words, and it uses rhyme schemes and has a limited number of syllables and a limited number of what are called lines. When a poet goes to construct his poems, he is aware of the rhythmic patterns and he's aware of the metrical patterns, that is, the emphasis and stresses and unstresses on syllables, and the number of syllables. Each word we have has a stressed and unstressed side to it. So it would sound like a but-ump, you know. We say things like cannot. I cannot go here. Cannot. Ba-bump. Or we say things like partridge. A partridge in a pear tree. Partridge. Bum-bum. The one has an unstressed and a stressed syllable to it. Cannot. The other has a stressed and an unstressed. Partridge. The one with an unstressed and a stressed we call I am. That's but-ump. The other we call trochee. Bum-bum. Well, when you have a number of these I ams put together, you say that it is so many I ams. So 5 I ams. And the word for 5 is pentameter. So when we talk about iambic pentameter, we're talking about 5 different sets of unstressed, stressed syllables. Sounds like this. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. We'll see that over and over again in Shakespeare. He uses iambic pentameter throughout. Poetry for Shakespeare is normally an iambic pentameter. He switches up the lines, and when he does so intentionally. And when he switches to prose, he does so intentionally. So we'll keep an eye out for iambic pentameter when the poet switches up the lines to prose and when he switches up to trochees and other forms of poetry as well. One image to look for in particular in the play is the image of the hero and the dragon. And we'll flesh that out as we go along. But look for images that would show potential dragon imagery and images that might show potential heroic imagery. Now, before and after each scene, there's going to be a video lecture that explains meaning behind Shakespeare's words. You'll also have an opportunity to check your understanding of the material covered in the lecture afterward. For now, let's get right into the text and begin examining this great play by William Shakespeare, the Scottish play, also known as the Tragedy of Macbeth.